HBO Max has made its big debut, but is it worth the price? Let's walk through and break it down right now. Hey everybody, I'm Dan Murrell here with my breakdown of HBO Max, the 547th streaming service to roll out just this month, and I can't wait for the next 14 that are coming later this week. There is a lot of stuff on this service, and a lot of people have asked and are wondering, is it worth the price? It's about $15 a month. That's on the higher end of a lot of these streaming services. So, is that something you want to invest in? Let's go through what's on HBO Max right now and help you decide and make that choice for yourself. Now, the big question first and foremost is, can I watch HBO Max? And that is a very, very complicated question. If you have HBO Now here in the United States, then you can probably watch HBO Max. As a matter of fact, the app should have auto-updated to give you access to HBO Max, unless you watch HBO Now on Roku or Amazon, either through the Fire Stick or on Amazon TV. Then you can't, because there are currently, as of this recording, no deals in place for HBO Max to be distributed on those platforms. The other big thing is that if you live outside the United States, then you're really hosed because you can't get HBO Max at all right now. They've said that they're going to roll the service out to select territories next year. They haven't said which territories those are going to be. So for those of you that have the right apps / streaming services / addresses and country of origin that can access HBO Max and you want to know what's on there, let's dive into the service right now and see if this is worth it as we escalate the streaming wars. So the first thing to look at is the HBO Max Originals, and this is a category where they're actually really light coming out of the gate. Most of their buzzy projects, including, as I mentioned, the Snyder Cut, are coming down the line later. As far as what's available right now at launch, you have a few options, and it is a mixed bag of stuff. It is a really weird mixture. First, you have Love Life starring Anna Kendrick. She's a young person trying to find her soulmate in New York City, and it's about different relationships. It's fine. It's okay. I don't particularly like any of the characters, including, I think, the characters that I'm supposed to like, but we'll see where it goes. Then you have a reality show called Legendary, which is about the ballroom scene. It's all about voguing. It's all about these very elaborate costumes, very elaborate performances. And I actually found myself more interested in the world of ballroom than the actual reality show about ballroom. There's another reality competition show called Craftopia that's aimed toward kids. It's fun. It's a fun show. Then you have the Not Too Late show with Elmo, which is definitely aimed at kids. It's a talk show hosted by Elmo from Sesame Street. The guests go on, they do silly games. It's like going on Jimmy Fallon. The one series that really stood out to me was the reviving of Looney Tunes. There are new Looney Tunes cartoons, and I think these are actually outstanding. The writing is smart and clever. It has that edge, almost that subversive edge that the old Looney Tunes cartoons had. This is the one HBO Max original program that I would say, oh, this is great. You should definitely check that out. But if you're looking at the Max tab at the series and saying, like, is it worth signing up just for these? The Looney Tunes aren't enough for me to say, oh yeah, you should definitely sign up for the HBO Max original series, because there's only one that really stands out to me. So when we're going down the boxes, if we're looking at original programming, not worth your money right now, I don't think. The other thing that you get with HBO Max, of course, is just HBO, and I don't think I really need to go into that. If it's been on HBO pretty much ever, then you get it. It's everything that was on HBO Go, it's everything that was on HBO Now, or any of the other crazy HBO streaming platforms. So if you want HBO's there, the original movies, the original documentaries, the series, everything. That's there, the entire library. So you also have that to choose from. Then there are several different categories. There are 8 categories that HBO Max subdivides into. I don't mean like movie series, but I mean sort of channels that you can browse. Now, the first one is DC. The big splashy announcement that they made before they launched last week was the Snyder Cut, but there is also some DC programming available at launch. The Snyder Cut is not. It will not be available until next year. When it comes to DC, I actually found this to be kind of a disappointing selection, especially considering that Warner has the rights to a lot of this stuff. But looking over at DC Universe, they seem to have the vastly superior and more detailed library of DC material. For example, the Harley Quinn animated series is not here. What is available? Swamp Thing is not here. Doom Patrol is on there. But a lot of the stuff that's made for DC Universe, that is a streaming service also owned by Warner, isn't on this service. And there's something worth noticing because I also was curious and wanted to check the Leaving Soon tab on the service, and several of the DC titles are slated, according to HBO Max, to be leaving the platform soon, including Batman Returns and Batman Forever, Justice League, Catwoman, Lego Batman, Teen Titans Go to the Movies. Now, I don't know if they're going to be adding things to supplement those. For example, there are no Superman movies at all available to watch on the platform currently. But if you already have a small number of titles, and if they take those that are listed as leaving soon away, I think you even have a lesser library. So when it comes to the DC portion of HBO Max, if that's what you want, I would suggest subscribing to DC Universe. It's also run by Warner Media. It's cheaper than HBO Max, and it has a lot more stuff. Now, the Snyder Cut will be an HBO Max exclusive, but right now, today, DC I don't think is going to be worth your money. The Sesame Workshop is a tab that you can go to, and the big draw here, again, as far as diversity of titles, you don't have a lot, but there's a lot of classic Sesame Street. So if you are a Sesame Street fan, then I think you're probably going to eat these up, but this is for the hardcore Sesame Street fans, or if you have kids that you want to show some of the older Sesame Street shows too. There's so many other things involved with Sesame Street that I'd hoped you could fold into this, but right now they are not available. So for Sesame Street, I'm saying Sesame Street fans only would probably want to subscribe for this. Then you have the Classic Movie Selection, which is listed as being curated by Turner Classic Movies, and I can't argue with the fact that there are a ton of absolute classic films from not just the United States, but from around the world. Some of the best movies ever made. But the weird thing, especially because it specifically says that this is curated by Turner Classic Movies, meaning this is a list that has gone through some kind of filter, is what's also included. Big Top Pee-wee, Armageddon. It's weird to see these movies alongside like Charlie Chaplin and Humphrey Bogart, Singing in the Rain, some of the best movies ever made. How in the hell these movies got into the curated classics tab, I will never understand, and it kind of undermines the whole authority that you want to go through by adding Turner Classic Movies' name to this and saying like they picked these movies to be classics. When you put Pearl Harbor in there, you're completely undermining your entire message. But that's just a quibble with how they're listing things on the site. I can't argue with the amazing amount of classic films, and I will never argue against the availability of classic films. One thing that I will say, though, again, if you're subscribing to HBO Max for the classics only, then I would actually recommend the Criterion channel, which has many of these same classics, but it is curated. You have a lot of special features. You have a lot of additional programming. It goes a lot more in depth because you get a lot of the special features that come with the Criterion editions. So if you are going to HBO Max just for classics, I would recommend perhaps checking out Criterion channel because I think that might scratch the same itch in a much deeper way. One of the big acquisitions that HBO Max got was the rights to the entire Studio Ghibli catalog. Well, almost the entire catalog. There's one film that's missing, which is Grave of the Fireflies. That's a film that Studio Ghibli apparently does not own the rights to, so they could not license that film to HBO Max. Other than that, though, there are 21 films available for you to watch, and this is actually the feature of the service that I am the most excited to dig into because I have not seen any of the films that Studio Ghibli has made, not just Miyazaki, the studio in general. And so I'm very excited that these are now available to watch in one place. I'm going to be digging into these very soon. As a matter of fact, I'm thinking about doing a series right here on this channel as I go through and watch these films for the first time because they are so highly regarded. They have been a blind spot of mine for a very long time. I'm labeling this as worth it because it's exciting to me, and from what I hear, these are several amazing animated films that are now available all in one place on streaming for the first time here in the United States. There's also a lot of animation available through two channels that are dedicated to Cartoon Network, one to Cartoon Network itself, the other to Adult Swim. And I really hope that both of these channels are under construction / works in progress because they have great potential because so many great shows have come through Cartoon Network and Adult Swim over the years. However, right now at launch, it's more about, for me, what's not there than what is there, and particularly when you look at Adult Swim. There are so many shows that have been broadcast on Adult Swim over the years, but at launch, you can only watch 9 of them. And none of them are any of the live action shows like Tim and Eric that have gone through Adult Swim in the decades that it's been broadcasting now. Rick and Morty, obviously the big draw, the big advertising appeal there for HBO Max. But Cartoon Network as well, you see a lot of fan favorite shows, but there are also a lot of shows that you don't see. So there's great potential in the Cartoon Network and Adult Swim categories, but I don't think they've realized that potential just yet. You may want to hold off and see what else they're able to acquire. There's also a channel dedicated to Crunchyroll, and I've been very upfront about the fact that I really don't know a whole lot about anime, next to nothing. So I can't tell you whether this is worth it or not. What I can say is that I looked at the options that were available, the titles that were available here on this channel. There are 17 titles available right now, and I went over and looked at Crunchyroll. It does look like it is a small portion of what is available on Crunchyroll. So if you want to subscribe to HBO Max to get access to everything on Crunchyroll, it doesn't look like you've got even a sliver of what you can get over there. So you may want to go just there if that's the big draw for you. One library that did not disappoint is the library that's in the channel dedicated to Looney Tunes. Again, there are not a whole lot of different titles here, but there are a lot of classic Looney Tunes cartoons to find here. If you are an animation fan, particularly Merry Melodies and Looney Tunes, then this will really be something exciting for you. They look fantastic. I watched some of the classic ones. They've really done a great job restoring them and bringing them up to modern standards of clarity. They are 4:3. They didn't Simpsons this thing and zoom them in to fill your television. They are in their original format. So if you're coming for Looney Tunes stuff, I don't think you're going to be disappointed. Outside of these channels and the original programming, the big news that HBO Max was making was the acquisitions they made for their library content. And I think library is really where HBO Max might have it over a lot of their other competitors. First of all, the TV library, they have their big acquisitions, which of course were Friends and The Big Bang Theory. They've also got The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. They've got Mad TV, Whose Line Is It Anyway, The OC. There's also a lot of classic animation here. A lot of the Hanna-Barbera stuff like Flintstones and Jetsons and Johnny Quest, Yogi Bear, Scooby-Doo, but also Popeye, Peanuts, Tom and Jerry. Also, if you like stuff from overseas, there's a lot of stuff from the UK, Alan Partridge, the new seasons of Doctor Who, basically since the series rebooted, Luther, Little Britain, The Office, The Thick of It. That's a great little pocket of stuff that they have there as well in their television library. And because it's HBO and they made their bones airing movies, there are also a lot of movies that you can watch in their library. You have the Nightmare on Elm Street series, the Die Hard films, at least the ones that I speak of, a lot of classic Godzilla films. You have all the Jaws movies, Lord of the Rings, the Alien franchise, at least the first 4 films, and a lot of great standalone titles as well. And this is really where HBO Max shows its strength. They're very weak on originals going forward. If you're looking for new stuff, then this isn't going to draw a lot of eyeballs. But if you're looking to go back and revisit things, then HBO Max does have a great library. When you're talking about movies, I think they maybe have it over any of the other streaming services, including Netflix, as far as quality of movies top to bottom. Yes, you've got some bad ones there, but you have some really great ones there too. So, should you get HBO Max? Well, as with everything else, I guess it depends on what you're looking for. As I mentioned, if you're looking for library movies and TV shows, if you're looking for a long list of older things to watch, then I think that you're probably going to find a lot to like here on HBO Max, particularly on the movie side. If you're going for original programming, then I don't think it's worth it right now, just because they don't really have that many original series or movies available, and what they have available, not much of it really stands out. So if that's what you're going for, then I say hold off, wait to see what's coming down the line, and if you hear something that you want to check out, something that's got some buzz, then maybe that's the time to subscribe to HBO Max. If you're an animation fan, then I think you probably may want to give it a try, because there's so much animation available. Feature animation, DC animation, Looney Tunes, Hanna-Barbera, all of those old shows, TV shows, and movies as well are available. So if that's what you really dig and if that's what you're really into, then they have a great library in addition to the Studio Ghibli stuff that is really appealing. But if you're looking at it overall, if I was going to make a recommendation to you as a consumer, then I think that perhaps a wait and see approach may be the best take on HBO Max, because while it has a few niche things that if you're very into this particular thing, you're really going to want to dive into, as on the whole, it doesn't really have that one thing I think that could really draw everybody in. I think that they're still building. And when you look at how this was rolled out, the fact that Warner Media has HBO Now and HBO Go and HBO Max, the 3 different versions of HBO, so many legal contracts yet to be signed, and the fact that they're running DC Universe and all these other streaming services, parts of it are available on HBO Max, parts of it aren't. It feels like a very piecemeal approach. It feels like a work in progress. It feels like Warner Media threw together a streaming service as best they could to jump into the streaming war without having the time necessarily to get into all the intricate legal details and details about licensing stuff that maybe they could have. I don't think this has been a particularly strong launch for them because there's so many questions surrounding it. And, if I were them and I wanted to make it worth the price, then I would bring in all of that DC Universe content. I understand that you want to try to keep the niche appeal, but if you're trying to bring everybody in under one umbrella, then you're going to have to bring more of that stuff over. Same with Crunchyroll. If you're going to bring in some of Crunchyroll, then why not bring in all of Crunchyroll? And so if I was going to make an overall recommendation, I would say wait and see. Unless you're into some very specific things, this may be a streaming service to let it, like a fine wine, let the air get to it, let it breathe a little bit, let that flavor really come out, and then decide whether or not you want to pour yourself a nice tall glass of HBO Max right in front of the couch. So those are my thoughts on HBO Max. Do you have the service? Are you thinking about getting it? Let me know down below. Let me know if there's anything that I didn't mention that you think people should check out on the service. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate everybody that watches here on YouTube. If you want to go even deeper into all these deep dives, you can check me out on Patreon, patreon.com/Dan Murrell. We're going to be launching our second monthly movie club very soon, as well as an all-new round of commentaries and so much fun stuff. We're having a great time over there, and I'd love for you to join us. But if you want to just hang out here, that's great too. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.